Sweating in a Bear Suit is a swear-friendly podcast. We don't do it heaps, and we're talking about the F and S variety of swears, but we trust you to take care of yourself and sit this one out if that's not for you. Now, on to getting sweaty. Sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit. I am sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit and having lots of fun with my sweat.
Hello. Welcome to Sweating. Let me finish. Welcome to Sweating in a Bear Suit, the podcast that doesn't have a strap line yet. Steph, what were you going to say before I ask you for the strap line?
Sorry, I just decided that was great because it's one of those times where you do a cool game and then you do it at exactly the wrong time. But I decided that at the start of every episode, I would start the recording with like a face like I was like that, and then people would come up on the thing. But what you did is you did the audio equivalent of that, because then I did that, and then you saw me do that and try to interrupt you, and then you yelled. So also the listeners get a start where they get me looking weird and then you going, "What are you doing?" at the same time. Perfect.
Well, I just felt it was important that we tell people what they're listening to. That's all.
Oh, yeah, no, you were right in that situation. And I suggest we leave it. It's staying in now.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. No need to re-record. Cool. So usually we would have the strap line next because we don't have one. We need something that sort of captures what it is we do here in a punchy, interesting way. Steph has a go at it each time we record. Now, before you go, Steph, I feel like I need to share with the audience how excited you are about this one. And
I really am.
I feel like I need to get my response good, enthusiastic at the appropriate level.
No, you don't. Actually, point of order for the listeners at home, we're building this together. The task here is that Stefan has to impress you with the best strapline. So you don't need to think in advance of being enthusiastic for it. You just need to give me your genuine response as I suggest to you the strapline forever for sweating in a bear suit.
Okay, perhaps a rephrase.
Okay?
Anticipation is high for this one.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's big.
You possibly think you found the one that goes forever, and I'm excited by the potential.
I think I've made something funny. Do I think it's the one that will stick? I kind of hope not. But okay, you ready? So it goes. It goes. Hi everyone. Welcome to Sweating in a Bear Suit. And then this is the strapline. Leadership. Heed her ship, 'cause G is the captain at the wheel and Steph's in the rigging. Squeal, piggy, squeal. Do you like it?
I am amused. This is for certain. It's very
it
good.
Taps in, but...
And it does actually tell people something about the podcast that we are doing.
And it includes the phrase squeal, piggy, squeal.
It does. It's memorable. It has the playful, helps people remember and learn stuff vibe. Look, I reckon it's your closest so far.
But do I have permission to come again next week with another one? Because I'll just be honest with all of you. I don't actually want to find the perfect one because I'm enjoying writing them too much. But pretend I didn't say that. So can I do another one next? Oh, wow, what a shame. It's not quite right. Oh, I'll have to come back next week with another one.
Yeah, what a shame. You'll have to come back next week with another one. Don't think we're there yet.
Oh, gosh. What a great long introduction that we're doing.
I wish you could see on Spotify how many people fast forward different bits, because I like
Yeah,
the analytics on that bit.
yeah.
Anyway, what are we here for? Today, we are continuing our brown paper chats and discussing the next bit of the brown paper, which is what is a brown paper and why a brown paper? So, Steph, let's start with what is a brown paper?
A brown paper, well, to tell you what it is in a very literal sense, it is something we wrote, which you can find on our website, playgrounded.co, under the tab that says free stuff. You can click there right now and you can have a look at a big document that we wrote. 9,999 words because we like a joke. And that is what a brown paper literally is. But the reason why we put this is one of the chapters. What is a brown paper? It is a chapter in the book. And we put it in there because we thought it's important to talk about the form that we're talking to you in. That is my lead up to then answering your question. A brown paper. I'll tell you how it started. We invented brown paper because smart businessy people were like, you know what you need to do? You need to write yourself a white paper. And I went, what the fuck is a white paper? And then I Googled what a white paper is. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And also, I want to make it a bit weird because that's what we do. And here's a fun fact. White paper came from British Parliament because, and I may get the colours wrong here, when official policy was made, it was printed on, I think it's blue. It could be green, a colour that is not white. But if you wanted to suggest a policy that was not official and stamped by everyone, you would print that on white paper. So white paper meant an idea that is not yet law or legislated, but we're thinking about a thing. So it invited comment. The business community likes a bit of jargon. So they heard about white papers and went, a white paper should be, a discussion of an idea or a potential product with some research and some smarts behind it to sort of prove the point of the people suggesting a product or a service. And it just became a thing that people did. Longer form than your, 10-word tweet, much longer form with a little bit more academia behind it. What is a brown paper? Brown paper is doing that exact thing, but not being terrible to read and painful. Because, gee, I come from a joy of academia. Sometimes the academia words and the smarty business words are a bit hard to digest.
Yes. Yes, they can be. The reason that we chose brown is multi-folded. One reason that I like it is that brown paper, do we call it butcher's paper in Australia?
Yes.
Or brown paper. You'd put it on your wall as kids in classrooms and you'd collaborate on it. And as Steph and I tend to collaborate and are big on collaboration in the workplace, I liked the idea of brown as the colour for collaboration things. But it's also fun in parts.
Yeah. Yes. The paper itself is fun in parts. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes. And should be more enjoyable to read than your average white paper, yeah. I get on my rant high horse soapbox about language in business and language in academia, because the point of communicating is to communicate, and there's so much fear of sounding not as smart as I am on the internet and in academic journals and things that we have gone far too far, I think, and made language far too formal and made it confusing for people. Not only confusing, but boring. And so people don't get the really important, useful information that a lot of business and academia writing tells us about or talks to us about.
Yeah, and that pisses me off because I get really annoyed at inaccessible language. I think it comes actually from being a migrant kid and my grandparents, who were very smart people, but English was not their first language. When you choose to use words that are incredibly technical and not explained, you shut people off who may not know those words. And in studying the stuff that we have both studied about groups and in the practicalities of understanding how groups and businesses function, this stuff is really important and can really help. But when I have been in the land of academia, the language cuts people off from understanding. And I think it's kind of a lot of the English language is based on cutting people out of understanding things. So with the brown paper, we wanted to make something that is accessible, enjoyable to read, and that people can actually understand the concepts that we're talking about because they're not that complicated. It's just that some of the words are new. So that's why we decided to make a whole new genre called a brown paper. G gave a great reason for why we chose the color brown. I would also say this reason. If you were to ask me, hey, why did you choose the color brown? I'd say, why the brown not? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, can I do Stefan's first digression, which you might hate and we might have to cut out?
Yeah, good. Well, yeah.
Have you ever heard about the concept of the brown note?
No.
So it's mythical. It doesn't exist, but in music, there's this idea that you can hit a certain note, and it hits you so deep in your core that you shit yourself, and it's called the brown note. And look, I'd be lying if that wasn't somewhere in the milieu of our choices, our creative choices around what to call this new style of presenting information.
We make some big arguments about how work is broken, or the way we work is based on outdated ideals, and so we will never shift properly into the next phase of work if we don't shift now when we're in this phase, when the internet exists, and we do have to change the way we work because humans are consuming information and products and services very differently than they did even 10 years ago when the internet did exist. And so we need to adapt the way we work to address the products that we're building, markets we're in, and so people stop having a truly shit time at work. Because life's too short for that.
Yeah. We've presented a paper to you about how the world needs to shift. It's so good, your pants, you're going to shit. Another poem.
Another poem.
G, that is like the first thing that we wanted to say and why we have chosen to do a brown paper, to point like quite consciously to the fact that the form is different so as it's more accessible to people. But there is another reason that I've been so excited to rant about. Can I begin my getting on my academic high horse?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. So there is another reason why we want to change the frame for how some of this information is presented, and how a brown paper works. And that is this. My friends, a thing that I have noticed, and I wonder if G has noticed this too, I think she has, but I don't want to speak for her, is that often when people are in leadership roles dealing with human systems, we very understandably see problems and then search for the right answer as we believe it. And then we go into these systems and then we advocate for our right answer that we found. G, have you noticed this is a thing?
Yes, it can be a thing. Yes.
And this is very understandable because the history of how science has evolved and how humans have solved problems is based on that idea. The Newtonian research method has been really awesome. It's done really good things, and it's based on the idea that in order to solve a problem or to understand things, you break something down to its component parts, you study them independently, you find an objective truth about them, and then you get to do cool things like make mobile phones and invent aeroplanes and also invent aeroplane jelly. For our non-Australian listeners, you probably don't know what that is, but know that that's a special... Is it just Australian?
I don't know. I kind of thought it was American.
Oh. I like aeroplane jelly. Aeroplane jelly for me. I'm so sorry, listeners. I've gotten caught in a digression. It's that way of thinking about how we solve problems and how we do research means that we have this mindset that when there's a problem, there is one truth that we're looking for. It works in a lot of places. The place that it does not work is when you research systems, and particularly human systems. G, what do you like to tell me whenever I start talking about systems?
We think of, well, it's not language we use regularly. And if we're thinking about, and I say we, when we talk about human systems, what we're talking about is people at work, and organizations and businesses are just people trying to work together on a thing or many things, and those are human systems.
Simple. Yeah? Now, the problem with looking at problems in human systems is because they're made of humans, they have a whole bunch of people with different perspectives. So when we're researching them, we kind of need to take a position where we don't believe that our truth is the only truth, because it is not. There are different subjective takes on an organization depending on what position in the organization you're sitting in. Simple way to explain this is marketing might look at a problem very different to, say, product does. And if each group just thinks about a problem with their own perspective, they don't actually come up with a solution that is greater than the sum of all the parts. So what has to happen when we're looking at systems is we have to take a different approach. And the approach is not about finding an objective truth. It's about suggesting possible truths so other people's opinions can come in, and then your opinion can be changed by other people's, and their opinion can be changed by yours, and you work together collectively to come to some understanding about the group. How do you like my rant so far, G?
Yeah, I think the way that we talk about it in sort of the commercial management rhetoric is, collaborative leadership. You hire smart people to listen to them rather than to tell them what to do. I have seen, though, many examples of the, I guess, tension in leadership between I am responsible for this thing and therefore I have to be really sure of the way we're going forward, and therefore I think I'm right in the way I'm doing this, and therefore I'll listen to other people, sort of. What I'm really trying to do is convince them of that my opinion is right. There's that buy-in is a term that can be positive and can be really negative, because if you just think about getting buy-in because you are convincing the group of people you work with that your way is the best way, then you're probably not going to get the best solution, because there's a whole group of people or team or teams of teams that have different perspectives that are useful and interesting, and you pay them for. So why not let them contribute? That's not to say that decision-making by consensus is the way to do it, because it is absolutely not, in my opinion. You still need to demonstrate leadership, make decisions. It's about taking in that information, feedback, ideas, opinions from others, and allowing those to change yours, but not only if it makes sense. We're not. I think there are different ways that leaders have been taught how to take in information and use it. And unfortunately, some of the way it's come out is that manipulation has been a tactic that leaders have taken.
Yeah, I think it's the tricky thing of knowing your opinion, seeking out someone's opinion, but being open to them potentially changing your opinion, and then if they haven't changed your opinion, still sticking to your opinion, but you've sought to understand something else. Because I'm with you, like, I think it's a balance. I think people hear this thing and they go, what are you talking about? Decision by consensus? No. What you're talking about is finding the in the middle thing where people are actually listening to each other and being changed by each other and having their opinion changed, which I would argue is not a thing that is as common in the world as it potentially should be.
Agreed. We are hitting the 21-minute mark. So we aim to make these things about 20-ish minutes. Before we go, I have an update. I quickly Googled aeroplane jelly, and it is Australian. 1979 was developed here.
There you go.
I didn't go deep enough on whether it reached other countries during that time, but I was definitely wrong there. It is an Australian treat. Appropriately so, because that we mentioned it, you may have heard the aeroplanes have changed their flight path and are going over me at the moment, so apologies about the background noise coming from my microphone. It is also appropriate because I have had this tendency to leave the podcast with thank you all for joining us, and let's go make some flying cars.
Okay.
The problem with this exit is that Steph's pointed out too many times, we've never explained this. Why do I say flying cars?
Why do you say, let's go make flying cars, G?
Well, when Steph and I were thinking about what do we want this business, why are we doing this business, why are we doing this thing, this was possibly day one that we had committed to working together remotely, full-time. Neither of us were working on anything else, and we did one of Steph's facilitated drawing exercises. And in it, I drew a flying car. I drew a flying car because I think that if we change the way that we work to be more collaborative, creative, innovative, less industrial revolution, command control style, then we will be able to make amazing things like flying cars. And I'm not talking about Steph and me making flying cars, because I definitely lack the mechanical engineering expertise. But in the world, they will be far more likely to be developed if people are working more collaboratively together, and we think we can help with that bit. So that is
what I love about this, Stu, is it's, and I genuinely mean this, having done drawing activities with all ages of people, it brings out a real childlike wonder at the world. And when you drew a flying car to represent innovation, I was like, that is exactly like if you're doing Lego with a 5-year-old and you're like, what do you want to build? And they're like, I want to build a flying car. So it really does hold a lot of possibilities. So are you suggesting, G, now that all episodes will be signed off with, so let's go make some flying cars?
I am suggesting it.
Live it, do it.
Suggesting it, we'll also collaborate, iterate over time. And if it doesn't feel right at a point, we'll stop or change. But for now, how do you feel about that?
Oh, gee, you are the boss of this podcast. That you've sought my input. I'm keen, but I love that you have made a clear decision. If I have any problems with it going forward, I will let you know. Now, I wish to hear you boldly announce the sign-off line.
Okay, everyone, let's go make some flying cars.
Ah, playgrounded. That's better.